In this video, we are going to create a very basic agent loop with some very simple tools. This is very much what something like Claude Code or whatever is based on. This is the type of thing you're going to see with coding agents and things of that nature. But we're just going to build it from scratch. So what I've got going on here, I've got the AI SDK, I've got AI, I've got Zod, which we're going to use a little later. And I've got this bin here because I want to be able to run this from anywhere on my system. We're primarily going to be working in one file. This is our index.ts. Got a few things we're bringing in from AI SDK. We've got create OpenAI. We've got the generate text command. This is loop finish, which we'll talk about. Model message type. And from Node, we've just got readline, which is going to act as our interface. Set up a couple little constants here. I'm going to be using this model because it happens to run really well on a Mac. We're setting up our API here, calling it Ollama, create open API. Here's our URL and here's our key that we don't really need. We are going to start with our agent loop. So our agent loop is going to be an async function that takes in messages, which will be an array of those model messages that we got from the AI SDK. And then using AI SDK, we are going to say we're going to get the text response from generate text. That guy is going to take in an object. Going to have our model, which is going to be Ollama, which was the API we set up, .chat, and then our model. It's going to have a system prompt. I'll figure that out in a second. And then we're going to send in our messages, which are coming in as an argument. And then we're going to use this stop when. And this is where we're going to use is loop finished. And this is like some real magic. It ends up saving you a whole bunch of looping logic that you would have to build out. This basically says, let the LLM run until it decides that it's finished or until the user says so. The next thing that we're going to have here, and we're going to skip for just right now, is going to be tools. We're going to come back to that because we haven't built those yet. So our system prompt is going to be you are a coding agent at, and then we'll just throw in that working directory. This guy right here, which is our current working directory. That's going to allow us to use this in other directories later. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so once we get past that guy, I think we're just going to return our text. And let's type a return promise of string. There we go. And let's await this guy. All right, our agent loop is looking good. We're going to jump to our interface. Now our interface, like I said, is just going to use readline. So we're going to set that up with rl equals readline dot create interface. And into that, this is pretty much always the same. We're going to have input, which is going to be process dot standard in. Then we're going to have output, which is going to be process dot standard out. Okay, so there's our interface. We're also going to have our messages that we carry around that we're going to end up passing to our loop. I'm going to call that history. I'm going to set that up to be model message array, and for now that's going to be empty. Okay, now we're going to have our prompt, and this is going to be like our recursive function that just keeps coming back to the prompt, like what do you want to do next? So that's going to be a function that just voids this out. Or I'm sorry, it doesn't return anything. And then we're going to use our readline to ask a question. And we're just going to have some sort of generic little prompt here. I'm going to say input and whatever. That's, you know, where we're expecting the user to type something after that. So we're going to have our async. We're going to be passing in, we'll call it our query, which is the message that the user gives us. First thing we're going to do is push that into our history. So if you've seen any of my videos before, this message is right here is usually an array of objects. You have a role, you have a type, and then you have the content, things of that nature. So here we're going to say this role is the user, and the content is the query. So we are going to do that one more time with the little guy in between, but for now this is going to be role is our assistant. So this is where we're going to get our reply. So we'll be sending the reply there. So now we need to get that. So const reply, and this is really easy, is await agent loop history. So we're just passing in all the messages. Nice and easy. Okay, so once we get past that, we're going to say if we in fact have a reply, we're going to log that guy out. And then we're just going to log out an empty line in order to start the next prompt. So we're done, and now we want to prompt again. And then to kick this whole thing off, we're just going to run prompt. So that's essentially going to run forever. We could add in here, like if the query is the word exit or something, to go ahead and exit. But for right now, you just Control C to get out of this guy. So technically, we could try this out right now. So I'm just going to do that. Let me zoom this way in. Say run index, and we'll see if I mess that up. There's our input. And I say, what is 2 plus 2? And we get 2 plus 2 is 4. Who was the 5th U.S. president? James Monroe, yada, yada, yada. And since we have our history, I should be able to say who was next and who was after him. Cool. The president after James Monroe was John Quincy Adams. I believe it. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's not why we're doing this. But either way, we have a groovy little interface here. Now, the thing is, if I start asking it to do things, create files or whatever, it can't do that. So that's where our tools are going to come in. Let me move this out of the way. We are going to need to bring in a couple more things. So we got generate text. We got this guy. From AI, we're going to bring in tool, and we're also going to bring in Zod schema, which is just a shortcut available to us from the AI library that makes it easier for us to define these schemas very quickly. We're also going to import Zod itself. So Z from Zod. We are going to need a way to spawn a command line. So import spawn sync. Okay, I think this is probably all we need. We'll see. I'm gonna drop something in here that I sketched out earlier, and that's gonna be block commands. We kind of don't want it to run some of these commands, so we'll have that there. Now, when we get to our tools, we're actually going to structure this in 2 ways. We're going to have our actual code, so that's going to be like a function called run bash, which is going to be what our tool can run. So we'll have that, and then we'll have this object called tools where we could add more tools to it later. And the first one will have a key of bash, and then it'll use the tool command from the library. And that'll take in an object. It'll have a description. I'll say run a shell command. Now I have an input schema. So anti-gravity kickback, and that looks pretty good. So I'll have command, which would be z.string. And again, I'm gonna tell that guy to shut up for a minute. Okay, so after the input schema, we're gonna have our execute. And this is where we say, like, go run the thing. So async is gonna take in a command. Command be a string. And then all we gotta say is const, we'll call it output is equal to run bash command. And then we'll just return the output. There we go. Okay, so we got our tools, and in the end, we are going to come down here and say tools. So that's how we're going to get that to our agent loop. Okay, so now we need to write this run bash guy. So we just saw that it's going to take in a command, which is going to be a string, and this guy is going to return a string. Then we're going to say if, what do we call it, block commands. So first thing we want to do is make sure we're not running some of those commands. So some. So if we have that, then we are just going to return, we'll just return a string with an error. Danger, little Robinson, whatever. Okay, so now we want to actually run our guys. So we're going to do a try catch on this. So catch our error. We'll return there. I'm not going to worry about this syntax right now. Okay, so now we just need to get our actual result, which is going to be, now we're going to use that spawn sync. But we just break out the command, so we're going to run shell, and then we're going to run taxc, which is going to be our command, and then the actual command. After that, we have some options to tell it where to do all this. So we're going to say our current working directory is work directory. We're going to say our encoding is UTF-8, and we're going to set a general timeout here of like 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay, now where did I... Now result equals, here we're going to return. We're going to concatenate our result standard out, and if we have it, our result that standard error. Trim those guys up, and then we'll make sure that we're inside of, let's say, 50,000 characters. Otherwise, we'll return nothing. That looks good to me. I'm sure I messed something up. Let's see. I got some missing. We don't need that. There we go. Let me clean all this up. Okay, so we've got a run bash, which hopefully works. We've got our tools, so we've got bash. And then here we're going to say use bash to solve tasks. Act, don't explain. All right. I think I don't know. It's worth a try, right? Okay, we're going to zoom this terminal way in again. We're going to say bun, run, index. We get our input. Let's start with a simple one. What is 2 plus 2? Cool. Now we're going to try to do something. So let's say we're going to create a file called hello.ts. Its content should be a function that logs out hello world. We'll see how that goes. I don't have high hopes, to be honest. Yeah, you know what? That looks pretty good to me. There's our hello. Whoa, let me zoom this way out. Okay. It's a function. It does what it's supposed to do. Cool. So what have we done? We've created an agent that can use tools. We've got an agent loop that'll run through until it's done. It uses bash, and we can add a whole bunch more to this. But one thing I am going to do is show you, I mentioned earlier on that I had this whole bin thing set up here so that I could use it in other places. So what we're going to do is kill this, and then I'm going to say bun link. And now my Jeeves project should be available in other directories. So what I'm going to do is bring up a separate terminal here. And I'll zoom this guy way in so you can see. And I'm just going to say make directory test Jeeves. And I'll zoom that in a bit more, sorry. Okay, so we'll go into this test Jeeves directory. There's nothing in there. It's empty. And so what I'll do is I'll say Jeeves. and there's my input. So now my working directory is testg. So if I say create a file called, I'll just use the same one I did earlier. Open up a new tab and list that out. There's our hello TS, add hello TS, and there's our function that says hello world. So this works. I can take it around. I can add a whole bunch more tools. And there's actually, I think I'm going to follow up on this video with another one where we do explain why you might want more than just bash. There is a world where some people say all you need is bash, but there are certainly reasons you might want more specified tools.